Cup Series team owners skipped out on a scheduled meeting with NASCAR. Where do things currently stand between the two sides? How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Lots to get to today, including an exciting announcement. But first, this episode is sponsored by Kubota. You've probably seen the orange and black Kubota colors on Ross Chastain's Trackhouse Chevy. Well, both Trackhouse and Kubota are taking their partnership to the next level to support farmer veterans. Kubota will make a $10,000 donation to the Farmer Veterans Coalition each time Ross Chastain nets a top 10 finish in their orange and black colors. Since 2015, Kubota has provided the Farmer Veterans Coalition more than $800,000 in the form of organizational support, grants, and equipment. And speaking of equipment, Kubota's standard L Series' versatility, affordability, and durability makes it easy for property owners to tackle any job. Easy to operate, easy to maintain, that's what makes this tractor the perfect option for first-time buyers. The possibilities are nearly endless for the highly versatile Kubota L Series compact tractor when paired with performance-matched Land Pride attachments and implements, such as the loader and bucket to move and haul material, the rotary cutter to clear grass, weeds, and brush, and the box blade to spread material such as gravel on a road or to expand areas for planting. Find your local Kubota dealer at KubotaUSA.com, that link is down in the description, and demo one of their machines today. Thank you to Kubota for supporting racing and for sponsoring this episode of Out of the Groove. There is a lot to get to today. First, tomorrow, Brendan Poole and I are releasing an all-new episode of Power Hour, and our special guest for this episode is none other than NASCAR Hall of Famer Mark Martin. I can't wait for you all to see and hear the full episode. It'll be uploaded both here on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, but will also be available anywhere you get your podcasts. That will release tomorrow afternoon. A huge thank you to Mark Martin for spending his time with us. I think y'all are really going to enjoy this episode. Now let's get to the news. Yesterday, I discussed Legacy Motor Club and how reportedly their all-new president of business operations had already left the team. Shortly after I uploaded that video, Colleague Racing revealed their new paint schemes for Bristol Dirt. And they may look a bit familiar. The orange and green colors graced the Petty GMS Chevys last year. Clearly, Tide Gain have left Legacy Motor Club and are now teaming with Colleague. Great looking paint schemes, by the way, just like last year and the year before that. I love just about every rendition of the Tide ride, but this may be the best we've seen in a while. Beautiful stuff. I love the theme of, laundry detergent, cleaning supplies sponsoring the dirtiest race on the calendar. Great looking paint schemes, but now this makes the timing of the Legacy Motor Club news a bit more interesting. I hate to keep bringing up this Richmond incident, but yesterday, Trackhouse team owner Justin Marks was on Sirius XM NASCAR radio talking to Dave Moody, and Moody asked Marks about Christopher Bell's post-race comments where he called Ross Chastain the wrecking ball and put at least some of the blame for the William Byron wreck on Chastain. Now, Bell later on tweeted that he'd seen the replay, he apologized to Byron and took more ownership for the accident. But Justin Marks yesterday reacted to those initial comments from Christopher Bell. Here's what he said.
You need to be careful about the things you say until you've done that further review. To run to a microphone and make a statement like that when you haven't even looked at the replay, it's just super lazy. So
in this same interview, Justin Marks does admit that some drivers have been rightfully upset with how Ross Chastain has raced them, but he iterates that in this instance at Richmond, Ross Chastain did nothing wrong. I have a couple of thoughts. First, I agree that Ross Chastain did nothing wrong at Richmond. But beyond that, here we have yet another example of Justin Marks going to bat for his drivers. He will vocally support them week in, week out, and that's refreshing. You don't see that from most other team owners, and it's not like Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez are unable of speaking up and defending themselves. They do. Ross Chastain defended himself on pit road after the race on Sunday. But I also like that their team owner is not afraid to get behind the microphone, get in front of the cameras, and go to bat for them. It is refreshing. My second takeaway, though, is I don't agree with Justin Marks's lazy comment. I don't think that's the right word to use. Reporters run up to the drivers after the race. It's not the other way around. They're putting mics and cameras in Christopher Bell's face before he has a chance to see a replay. Now, sure, Christopher Bell should have said, hey, I haven't seen the replay yet, here's what I think happened. But I don't think lazy is the right word to describe Christopher Bell's comments. Reporters are talking to a driver who just moments ago was in the heat of battle, just climbed out of the race car. He doesn't have a full view of what happened. Sure, he should be careful. All drivers should be more careful when they assign blame. But in the heat of the moment, these questions are being asked. It's not lazy to say what you think happened. Bell should have prefaced his comments, though, by saying, I haven't seen the replay. I need to double check. Either way, Justin Marks continuing to defend his drivers. Now let's get to the big breaking news of the day. It has been nearly 6 months to the day since several NASCAR team owners first publicly aired their grievances with NASCAR. Both sides have been trying to agree on a new revenue sharing model. The current charter agreement ends in 2024, as does the current media rights deal with Fox and NBC. But it sounds like with today's news, despite 6 months of time passing by, very little progress has been made. This morning, Jenna Fryer of the Associated Press tweeted, NASCAR had a regularly scheduled meeting today with team owners, and the entirety of the team owners boycotted the meeting. She continued, as is well known, the teams are demanding a better financial model and do not feel NASCAR is negotiating in good faith. She continued, it is my understanding the ownership group wants Jim France and Lisa France Kennedy at the negotiating table. Okay, there is a lot to digest there. We'll add some context in a moment, but my first reaction to that last comment, Jim France is still the current CEO of NASCAR. The France family still owns this monster. Why aren't Jim France and Lisa France Kennedy part of these negotiations? I understand that maybe the teams are negotiating more directly with the Steves, Steve O'Donnell, Steve Phelps. I'm sure Ben Kennedy perhaps is part of these conversations. I'm sure there's lawyers involved, legal teams. But I don't blame the teams for wanting the CEO, Jim France, representatives of the France family, present during these negotiations. I know Jim France is much more of a background character than Brian France was. Steve Phelps now is more the face of NASCAR's sanctioning body. But Jim France, Lisa France Kennedy should absolutely be at least present for these negotiations, for many of these meetings. So I don't think the owners are making an unreasonable request. Maybe they're not getting what they want from Steve Phelps or whoever they are currently negotiating with. Maybe they just want different voices in the room. I'm not sure, but that part I'm with the teams on. Adam Stern from Sports Business Journal added this context. NASCAR teams are planning to collectively not show up to today's team owner council meeting with NASCAR, per sources. A symbolic boycott because they feel that new revenue talks are not progressing. Bob Pockris then clarified that this meeting they're skipping out on may not necessarily have been about the revenue split. He tweeted, teams did boycott team owners council meeting scheduled for today. This meeting wasn't necessarily to discuss the revenue distribution model, but typically is about initiatives in the sport. Boycott was a message about needing to make progress on revenue distribution talks. Now, NASCAR did release a statement. Here's what they said in response to this news. NASCAR is committed to open and productive dialogue on a regular basis with all industry stakeholders. We remain committed to continuing discussions in the spirit of collaboration and with the shared goal of growing our sport for the benefit of all stakeholders. Yeah, I mean, what else are they supposed to say there? It's difficult to comment on this because I don't know exactly what the teams are asking for in these meetings. I don't know exactly what the teams feel they need to be profitable or to at least break even. I don't know what the tracks need. It's expensive to build these massive facilities, to maintain them year round when you only have a handful of major events that bring in all your cash. What about NASCAR corporate? They spend a lot of money on marketing. They've built the Clash at the Coliseum, the Chicago street race. We know the splits. We know that NASCAR gets about 10% of the TV money. We know the teams get 25% through the purse and the charter agreement. And we know the tracks collectively get the other 65%. But I don't know how much NASCAR spent on the Coliseum. I don't know how much it truly costs to field a successful NASCAR Cup Series team. This isn't like the NFL where every team has a hard salary cap, everyone knows what that number is, and we can discuss whether, is that quarterback really worth 40, 50 million guaranteed dollars? The numbers just aren't that public in NASCAR. What I can talk about is what's been previously reported. Back in January, Sports Business Journal Adam Stern reported that the teams were asking for nearly double the money they currently get. And Stern suggested that NASCAR, in return, would likely ask teams to agree on some form of a spending cap and would want additional digital and content rights. I don't know if that's realistic. That sounds like the teams are asking for something way up here, knowing that once they negotiate, it will probably come down to this range. What I can talk about is my gut feel. Back in January, February, I was very optimistic. NASCAR had acknowledged that, hey, the teams do need more money. The model does need to change. Reports back then were that NASCAR had softened its stance. They were back at the table. I think even Denny Hamlin, in one of the early episodes of his podcast, expressed at least some optimism that a deal was somewhat in the ballpark of getting done. A couple months later, and I don't really feel optimistic at all. This sounds like it's going to get dragged out over many more months. The teams, the Race Team Alliance has already threatened to put on their own exhibition races in the offseason outside of NASCAR's control. This could get ugly, and time is starting to run out. NASCAR is up against the clock. The current TV media rights deal ends at the end of 2024. They'd like to get a new deal negotiated by the end of 2023. But before you can do that, you probably need to settle up with the teams first. You got to get this new distribution, this new revenue sharing model set in stone. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it could get ugly. It's already gotten kind of ugly. Any progress that perhaps was made at some point got cleaned out. We're back to square one. That's how it sounds. The teams, the owners are boycotting meetings with NASCAR to try and send a clear message. This is a weird moment, but a very important moment in the sport's history. I ranted yesterday about the next media rights deal. NASCAR has to find even ground with the teams first before they can really tackle that subject. So there's a lot to continue to look out for in this space. I'm not as optimistic as I was a couple months ago. I still believe in my gut a deal is going to get done, but between now and that point, things might get even uglier. Time will tell. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this ongoing situation. That is going to do it for this episode. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave this video a like. If you're new and you love NASCAR, you love stock car racing, hit that subscribe button down below. And thank you, as always, to my Patreon supporters for your very generous support. Once again, tomorrow afternoon, Power Hour, new podcast drops with Mark Martin. Cannot wait for you guys to hear that episode. Had a blast recording it and editing it. Thank you so much for watching, folks. I will see you again very, very soon.